Okay, as we would begin this PowerPoint, I want to give credit to where my understanding of these things came from. I've had the privilege of being able to hear and spend a little bit of time with Dr. Peter Kraft of Boston College, and it is he that especially pointed out to me, to us, how important motive is to Kant. I didn't realize the degree to which the motive for one's action was important to Immanuel Kant until Dr. Kraft really pointed it out, just how large it loomed in Kant's thinking. As usual, we're involved with the illustration, the analogy, the picture of aiming and shooting and aiming at a target and at a bullseye. And that bullseye being defined in these terms, the good and the right and the ought, according to which ethical theory we're dealing with. So the importance of our motives for the morality of our actions, that's Kant's concern. This actress, this beautiful actress of yesteryear, is Vivien Leigh, and she's playing the character Scarlett O'Hara in the movie Gone with the Wind, very famous movie. So in 1862, Scarlett attends a fundraising ball for the Confederate Army in Atlanta, where she, as a recent widow, is not supposed to enjoy herself and must remain off to the side wearing a black gown. However, she dances covertly behind the counter of her charity stall. There's one of those little screens there, and so people can see that she's dancing, and she receives looks of disapproval as the people around her, especially the ladies around her, whisper rumors of her supposed mourning, meaning she's not all that broken up about the death of her husband. Meanwhile, Melanie, who is her best friend, Melanie Wilkes, is married to Ashley Wilkes, a young man whom Scarlett has always secretly loved. He's been taken captive by the North in the Civil War effort. And she comes forward and she offers her wedding ring to a high-ranking officer there as a war contribution, because she pictures it being that the monies for this could be used to help someone like her husband, as far as the South sending on supplies for POWs who are in the North. And it's a generous move that Scarlett feels obliged to follow. And immediately, if you're seeing this film, you feel a cognitive dissonance here and you feel a disapproval of Scarlett, because it's really obvious that Melanie's giving her most prized possession to the war effort. She's very much in love with Ashley, and this ring represents that love and that commitment, and she gives it up with the hope that somehow it might possibly, indirectly or directly, help Ashley or somebody like him. Meanwhile, Scarlett is giving something that she really doesn't care all that much about at all, but she's doing it because her friend did the same sort of thing. There's a lot of giving like this. We would call it tokenism, when somebody does something because someone else did it and it seems to be the thing to do. Many a generous donor to charitable causes does so in order to avoid paying taxes. The motive is egoistic, but it appears to be self-sacrificial or altruistic. And you have to ask, is this really a praiseworthy thing that they did? So if a billionaire gives millions to homeless shelters, not because he cares about the homeless, or he wants to help out with the situation of the homeless on the city streets, but simply because his accountant tells him he needs to bring his gross income down, or he's going to get huge tax penalties, and meanwhile he can kind of brush up or shine up his image publicly, is his act really a morally good one when he does this? I know in terms of utilitarianism or consequentialism that obviously there is a good benefit, but is his act morally praiseworthy if his motives were not ones that desired to help others in reality? How important is my motive for my action as regards its moral worth? This is especially the concern of Immanuel Kant. According to Thomas Aquinas, there are three parts of a moral action that need to line up in order for that action to truly be a good one. They are the objective act itself, and then the subjective motive from which the act was done, and then the situation or circumstances. So obviously, deontology is focused, Kantian deontology is focusing on the subjective motive, if I'm telling you that this is what matters most to Kant. And obviously for Bentham and Mill, what matters most to them is the situation or the circumstances and the act. So it's important for you to understand, for Kant, motive is everything. Across human history, there has been disapproval of many possible human motives for behaviors which you can't see them with the eye, you can't detect them, and nevertheless they're there. And oftentimes they are what motivates something that was intended to be hurtful or harmful, but turned out for the good. They can be hate, or greed, or envy, or most especially above all others, pride. That somebody is doing this so that they will be seen, that they will be noticed in order to build themselves up, but they really have no compassion or caring about those whom they're ultimately helping. It can be lust or sloth. Sloth is a little bit more complex word than we think it is. It can be apathy, and it could be despair. All of these things could possibly motivate something that was ultimately turned out for the good, but it wasn't motivated by good desire or intent. So just how important is my motive for my action to its moral worth? Immanuel Kant believes that it is supremely important, and that's essential for you to understand as we now get into his moral theory. It's kind of the foundation to his moral theory, that this is what matters most.